a small company compared to most of the manufacturing companies. We're very small, but it's very interesting. I talked to one of the major manufacturers the other day, major paper mills in the country. And he had placed an order with us that we were going to be a week late on. And I called him. And he said, Punchy, which is my nickname because I boxed at Tulane. He says, Punchy, let me tell you something. You don't know how much I depend on you guys. He said, we think you all are one of the most outstanding companies in the country. If you can't make a delivery, you tell us. You don't lie to us. We have some companies that they'll deliver in 3 weeks and they don't deliver for 16 weeks. If you say that you're going to deliver in 3 weeks, we know it's going to be here in 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, but never 4. He said, we depend on you. He says, and I've told many manufacturers that your company is based on honesty and quality. We're manufacturers, we are distributors, we do a lot of things. We're service people, and all of them are important to us. We represent various other companies in the sales of their product. But downstairs, we do a lot of the manufacturing and the repair work. We rebuild magnetic flow meters, which are very important to the industry, in measuring flow rate. We make a freeness tester, which is very important in paper mills and making paper. We have a refiner controller. We have a consistency regulator that we make here. It's our own design. We repair a lot of secondaries or electronics that go with these meters. And we make a lot of circuit boards of our own. And we do a lot of things.
I think Horace reacted to the same thing that any of us do, that try to be a little creative. He recognized a need and he filled it. He recognized that instruments needed to be upgraded and otherwise restored to original operating condition, and I understand that's the basis for the original founding of the company.
He looks at a thing and analyzes it and said, you know, I can do it better, or I can get into this thing and I can be competitive, and that's the way he approaches. Yeah. Well, he's got this restless energy, you know, always has had it. And he reads something and then he thinks he can do it and he gets into it, yeah. Oh, yeah, and he learns from experience, sometimes maybe kind of costly, but that's the way he basically learns.
I remember when I finished school, one of the best things I ever learned from my dad, when I finished school as a chemical engineer, I went to work for Humboldt out in Texas, which later was Exxon, but it was owned by Exxon. And they put me to work cutting grass. So I decided I was going to quit and come back home. I'd been offered another job with a salt company up in Kansas. So Dad was out there the next day. He said, son, you can't quit. They're not going to pay you all that $117 a month for cutting grass. I mean, they've got something in mind for you. I said, no, Dad, you don't understand. He said, you don't understand. If you quit, you're finished. If you quit, you're finished for the rest of your life. Well, Dad, I'll try it a little longer. So the next day, I was emptying a garbage can. I had a friend, the guy that started the day after I did, I figured he was my assistant. He was helping me empty the garbage cans to take them out to the blowhole. And I said, you know, that's a heck of a note. I'm a chemical engineer from Tulane, and I'm emptying garbage cans. He said, I'm a PhD from MIT. I said, you are? I said, Dad, you were right. And that has made a difference.
I would define Horace Thompson as a man with a lot of energy and someone that's made a real technical contribution to the industry that he serves. We lose the reflection of individuals in the bigness of companies. But men like Horace are unique and they're real. And to me, it's part of the old American success story. They did it and they made it work.
I may have met him at an instrument show, personally. I thought he was very interesting person, and I thought that above all he seemed to know what he was doing and where he was going, and perhaps most important of all, he seemed to want to help us.
Horace is a very creative fellow. He has personally developed their consistency regulator to the point where it is second to none, and this takes a lot of perception.
I finally was transferred to Exxon, and I was a process engineer.
Right.
And I was trying like anything to get the manager of the lube department where I was working to notice me, and you know, go through gruffly, and came through one day. Thompson, how much you run last night? I said, oh, about 7,000 barrels, Mr. Falk. Yeah, okay. And that happened every morning. So one morning he turned around the door. He says, Thompson, who's going to win that derby tomorrow? I said, Mr. Farr, I think Galahadian's going to win. Galahadian? He said, Galahadian couldn't beat Bimlich with one leg tied behind his back. So I figured, well, I guess I picked the wrong horse. Well, that was on a Friday. The next day, Galahadian won. So I was in there waiting for him the next morning. And he passed through, just ignored me. So how much you run? I said, well, we ran about 8,000 barrels, Mr. Farr. Well, the yield was not quite as good, but we ran a lot. I say, ignored me again, walked to the door, and he turned around and says, Thompson, how the hell did you know Galahadian was to win that derby? So, Mr. Farr, I've been studying horses all my life, and I knew that he could win. He could beat Bimlich with one leg tied behind his back. I said, well, you sure picked that one right. Well, about 3 weeks later, he was standing next to the phenol tower, the recovery tower, with the plant manager and Bob Chappell, who's the head of maintenance. And I happened to be going by. He says, Thompson, come over here a minute. What's making this tower boil over every time we increase the throughput? It's limiting the whole throughput of the plant. That's so, Mr. Farr, I think the bubble caps are plugged in the lower tray. Thompson, you know I got to shut this plant down to know that? Find that out? I said, yes, sir, I know. Thompson, you know how much it cost me to shut this plant down? I said, yes, sir, about $50,000 an hour. And you still think it's those caps are plugged? I said, oh, boy. Yes, sir, I do. So he turned around to Bob, and he says, hey, Bob, shut it down. He knew Galahadian was going to win the Derby.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Horace. Happy birthday to you.
Woo, thank you very much. Take a bite out of it? I love it like this. It's just great. It's great to be alive, great to have friends, meet your friends and talk to them. That's what's fun.